What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Brews Business Podcast. I'm your host, Braden Cruz, streaming live at the Blue Studio. We're live on TikTok right now with the Sooner CEO. So if you're interested, you want to chime in, we're going to stream there on TikTok. You can ask your questions. We'll all pitch in and go back and forth and help you with whatever you need help out with. Very excited to introduce a couple of my special guests. But today we're going to talk about fall in love with your business. And sometimes, again, for some of us, we have our ups and our downs, and we're going to have some really good stories. As always, I've got Abel, my co-host. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great.
Good to hear. Yeah, doing good? I'm glad. And then Chance, what's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Very good. Special guest, Mason Thatcher. Welcome back. How are you?
Hey, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. And someone new that we're also really excited with, I met Kyle Sullivan at the Tulsa Real Estate Investors Association. He had a really good speech, very inspirational, especially for the new year. How are you, sir?
Doing fantastic. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited that you're here as well, and interested to kind of see a little bit of your story too. I mean, you're the newest member or guest of Blue Studio and the Brews Business Podcast. Tell me a little bit about what you do, kind of a little bit of your story, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was in vocational ministry for 12 years. And so I came here to Tulsa 10 years ago, chase a girl. Worked out great. My wife, Ginger, who I moved here to chase. We've been married 10 years this year. We got 2 kids, little girl, 3, and our son is 18 months old. And I thought I was going to be in ministry forever. It was the thing that I got radically saved. I had a past of drugs and alcohol and frat life, and I got jumped at a drug deal, and that led me to go, I don't want to do that again. And so that led to the career in ministry, and I thought I was going to do it forever. And then everything changed when my daughter was born, and then the pandemic hit, and I got used to being at home, and I got used to being available. And when they said, we're going to come back to the office, it was like,
you're like, nope.
No, y'all.
They're still trying to get people to come back to the office,
right?
Yeah.
Y'all going back to the office, and so it was an incredible journey. And the creation of Unleash the Champ 2.5 years ago has been the most fun, frustrating, yet fulfilling part of my life to date. And I'm really excited for what it means and the stories that we're going to share today, because as it's been fun, frustrating, it's been fulfilling.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you guys have any stories on the top of your mind before I kick off anything? Is there anything that's come to mind where you're just like, man, I really wish someone would have known about this some part in their journey, and if you're really passionate about it, it's going to work out, right? And I feel like to be a business owner, you have to have some level of grit. God, the level of grit that you have to be able to have, and the emotional maturity and stable, being able to be emotionally stable too is really important. Right? Because you got to be able to handle those ups and downs,
100%.
And it's hard. So do you guys have any stories that come to mind?
I would say a story, but I definitely have advice. I think as we go through starting our businesses and doing things, and like you said, the word grit, there's a lot of times that we won't do something, and the reason why we won't do it because we're afraid. And we're afraid that we're going to be embarrassed. And we're afraid that someone's going to look at us different. And then when you look at people who do multi-level marketing companies, right? And you look at how annoying they are. And they're annoying because they don't stop. And they're annoying because they don't quit. And they call your phone and they post on social media. But in the end, 15 months later, 2 years later, you see that they're the one who had success when you didn't believe in it. And the only difference that they had is, other than you and your business and them chasing down their multi-level marketing thing, is they didn't stop and they didn't quit and they didn't care what anyone thought. If we all just put that focus into our business and we focus just like that one annoying guy who blows up your phone about Amway or whatever the next multivitamin thing is, guess what? Every one of us would have $1 million companies very quickly in less than 2 years. That's my advice. My advice is not to listen to yourself, to stop listening to yourself and find somebody who's going to kick you in the face when you want to quit and you want to get down on yourself and you want to get depressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me, you have to have something that anchors you. You have to have something that anchors you. And so I talk about like your calling. Why are you here? Why are you doing the thing that you're doing? I love hearing the stories of people that I go, okay, how'd you get started and what keeps you going? That anchoring is what keeps you when you don't know how you're going to make the bills. You don't know where the next sale is going to come from. You don't know where the next prospect is going to happen. You send out a countless number of
and sometimes you don't have a team that is around you to be able to help you make that happen.
No.
Sometimes it is up to you. You are the only one that is going to make that happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think it's about taking imperfect action. Like for me, when I started my podcast, we're about to hit 100 on the 16th of this month. Next Monday is the 100th episode.
Ooh,
awesome.
we'll give a little applause
Well
to that
done.
one.
And the very first episode was done on a voice memo on my phone, and I uploaded it.
See?
That's awesome.
Recorded it, sent it, done and done. And that was how it was. It was terrible. Before we hit record, you're talking about like, hey, you got to be willing to suck before you succeed.
Right.
And the first thing is always going to be bad, but it's done, and that's important.
I've got this Cards Against Humanity card that I saved. I was going to put it up in a little frame and put it up in here, and it's going to be like starting a shitty podcast.
I missed that.
It says it right there.
Come on.
That's
yeah,
up on
I
the
just got to
shelf.
put it on the wall.
I started listening to Kyle's podcast literally this week, and he's not lying. Like the first few, and we haven't even talked about it, but the first one was a little rough. The second, and now it's night and day different. If you'd have quit within the first 5, and he may think the first 5 are great, first 5 are okay. If he would have skipped in the first 5, he wouldn't have what he has now. In the last couple, and I've skipped a few a little bit to like listen to him. They're amazing. They're strong because he just didn't quit. Right. This guy has grit, tenacity. This guy's a bulldog.
Well, that's what we're doing with Brews Business. It's a fairly new podcast. We're about 6 months in. And when we first got started back in like July or August, some of those first ones were like, I don't know. But we're like,
sure.
well, we wanted to create a place for Brews Business. We wanted to create a place to where other business owners and professionals could come together and be authentic. I want to hear your real stories. Like, I want to know, did you cry last night? It's okay if you did. Like, I get it. I did too. It's cool. Right. You know what I mean? Like, we all don't have to put on this perfect, pretty image and put each other on a pedestal to be like, you know what I mean? Put on this fake image that to be something that you're not. Like, sometimes people look at you and they go, oh, damn, man. Like, Braden's done this or Mason's done that or Chance has done this or whatever it is, right? And we were talking about people being on different levels or different pedestals on our last podcast. And it's just funny, like people just at the end of the day still want to be people. There still are people, and to just treat each other as if like you don't have emotions is ridiculous,
That's amazing. And, going back to Kyle hitting 100 episodes, I started a podcast and I stopped it.
It's a lot of work.
I did 8 episodes. There's only 3 available right now because I was like, I sound horrible. This sucks. I quit on myself. And I'm very open about it. Like, man, I have failed in that arena because I just did not like the way I sounded. I didn't like the way I looked. My guests, it was very awkward. I wasn't very good in like having the conversation. And I brought people on who were probably far better than me. And they we'd get done, like, this was awkward, Mason. You asked me some personal questions that I didn't care about and I didn't want to answer. Thank you. And I was like, damn, maybe I shouldn't do this. I'll just go on somebody else's podcast and talk.
Like,
Well, you do phenomenal at that.
Yeah, I'll send all of you guys a link, and you guys can laugh at them because you'll be like, ooh, that's rough.
Well, I started a podcast too, like 2.5 years ago, and it takes a little bit of knowledge, but I think the biggest thing, like when it comes to just, I don't know, you could almost apply it to anything, whether it's the gym, whether it's marketing, whether it's sales or whatever. So if you're consistent, right? We highlighted this too last week or last couple weeks about just being consistent and making a little bit of improvements each and every time, just a little bit. 1% better is better than not making any changes at all or going backwards. So like try to make it a little bit better. And I'm sure your 100th podcast is 10x better than your first one.
100%. And I made a decision.
100%.
I made a decision that I just wasn't going to stop. Like on episode 0, I envisioned episode 100. At the first download, I envisioned the 10,000th download. And so that's that anchoring. If I could leave anybody with the most important thing is to have an anchor so that when the storms come, because they're going to come. This is what we're talking about. Like this has been some of the most where I have to look at my wife and go, listen, baby, I don't even need you to think about $1 right now. Like, we're going to get the stuff for the kids, but us, no, we
okay.
Like,
Are the kids good? You got clothes and food on the table? Like,
and there's times where I'm like, hey, get what y'all need. I'll figure it. Like, but it has never got me where I think, I don't know if I want to do this. There's one time, probably a year ago, where I started looking at jobs and I started applying. And I had a buddy, and I made this whole post when I started the business. Like, man, I felt like this is my next assignment. I think your calling stays the same. Your assignment is what changes over time. And he's like, did you feel God say change? Of course. No. Then what the hell are you doing? And it was like a month later where stuff started to pick up. About 4 months later, stuff started to go down, but I never have gotten off that anchor point of this will be a multi-million-dollar business. I will have conferences all over the country. And it deepened my resolve going through the valleys. I talk about like we think, oh, we want everything up and to the right. We want it smooth. Well, that's like saying I just want to live and ride on a train my whole life. Well, I want the roller coaster. I want to be flipped upside down, sideways. Give me the twist and turn. What's more exciting in our life?
And enjoying the journey.
A train
Enjoy the journey, right?
Or a roller coaster. I'm taking a roller coaster all day, every day, done and done. And that's what's exciting.
You know, guys like Kyle, the reason why these guys win is because they fall in love with the process. It's the process that matters. It's the journey. It's the process.
That's what Gary Vee talks about too. He's like, if you don't love the process, get out. Find something where you enjoy the journey.
You'll definitely fail. And what I tell people when they ask me questions like, you know, what do you do when you're failing? What do you do when things are tough and things are a challenge? I tell them I try to love my business and hate myself more. The more I hate myself more, the more I dive into my business, the more time I spend on it, the more focus I put on it. And sometimes it takes to love your business as it is going to be to hate yourself, you know, so you can focus in and really, truly grind and not give yourself any excuses.
I think you made a great point of like, man, I just lost the words, but you said it just a second ago. Sometimes in your business, you have to fall in love with the process or more or less you're falling in love with not necessarily, so I'll use my perspective, right? I've realized that I fall in love in building businesses. It's not necessarily the business that I'm working on at the moment, but it's that process of realizing like I'm building people that are going to build businesses. It's not necessarily me building the business. It's me setting up the opportunity for these people to create this wonderful thing that I have envisioned. But it's I think when you go back to fall in love with the business, you make a great point because sometimes when I'm more or less unhappy with the business, you have to look at yourself. As a business owner, there's nobody else you can hold accountable other than yourself. So you look at yourself and you're like, okay, am I veering from my calling, right? So, and sometimes you're just like, hey, for instance, for me, hey, sometimes I just get busy making sales. I'm just making sales. I don't love that. I hate that, man. Dealing with people, I'm sure you guys know, it's rough, right? But on the back end, then I realize I'm dealing with my people as my team, my employees, and we're opening up these opportunities that other people don't typically have in certain other areas or other businesses or whatever jobs that they've had. And it's like, okay, I'm doing my job. I'm creating these opportunities for people that just weren't there before. And that process doesn't necessarily. So I said this to my 4-year-old daughter the other day. She said something about, hey, what'd you do today? I was like, oh, really nothing. You know, I did some office work, nothing crazy. She's like, oh, you didn't get to do anything fun today. You know, that sucks. You don't always get to do something fun. I'm like, you know, it's funny because it's the boring stuff you get to do all the time. It's the fun stuff you get to do some of the time. But depending on how much boring stuff you're willing to do, it opens up the opportunity for more fun stuff.
Right.
But most of the time, you're just grinding. And that's just the reality. And that's where the sales comes in. And then every now and again, I get to set up a position for an employee or some sort of opportunity for them that wasn't there before. And that's a huge moment where, like, you know what? I was grinding as far as making sales, making the business run. But really, here's the fun part, where I get to transition somebody's life that wasn't possible beforehand. And sure, somebody could have made it happen aside, you know, from them or whatever. But the reality is that got to happen in my presence, which is phenomenal. It makes you fall in love with it all over again. You realize you're here for the people. You know, we're all just doing a service. We're all just doing, like, in my perspective, I would say, hey, everybody can come mow the grass. Anybody can come mow the grass. But it's how much care you put into mowing that grass. That's the difference. And that doesn't necessarily mean, hey, you have to completely change how you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Mow the grass, make it look good. But how do you take care of people? How do you present yourself? How do you talk about yourself? How do you talk to other people? You know, so I think there's it's not always a lot of, hey, do you follow your passion? It's not always about following your passion. Sometimes I think it is that, hey, find what it is you're really good at how do you make that your passion? What it is about it that you love doing? So, for instance, Kyle, dude, your speech the other day was phenomenal. I loved it. You know, and Mason made the good point of, hey, you know, some people were lying to themselves, didn't stand up. I stood up because, frankly, I knew whenever you said it, I was like, I know my performance sucks. I know that's where I'm slacking. So I was like, I'm going to stand up at that point. And is it the physical thinking about your speeches? Is it the physical grinding, having those conversations with people that you enjoy? Maybe not. But when you see that switch flip in somebody, or you see that person change, it's like, that is what the fun part comes in. I was grinding. I was doing the boring stuff, which was a lot of times, as you guys know, dealing with people, it just sucks. You know, no, you could tell them what to do, and it's up to them to make that decision. But whenever somebody finally gets it, that's just everything right there.
Yeah. You know, the first time that I gave a speech was back in 2008. I had 20 minutes. I spoke for 7 and walked off.
Huh. You were just like,
all right,
nope.
I'm done.
Like that was the end of the speech, or you were just, you quote unquote quit?
I was done.
Like that was the end of the speech?
I just lost track of what I was going to say, and I couldn't pick myself back up. I couldn't think again.
I bet you beat yourself up.
No,
you didn't.
I just went, well, I'll do better next time.
Because everyone else would. Anybody, like, most people would. They'd just be like, man, that was terrible. I'm never going to speak again.
Like, for me,
right?
I remember thinking back to that.
That's how I would have been.
Yeah.
I remember thinking back to that going, God, I got to come up with more stuff to say. Because I had thought.
Well, maybe you thought that way because you're inspired by your vision.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're not steered in the wrong direction of being like, God, I'm never going to be a good speaker, and I'm never going to do this again because I'm terrible, and oh my God, I should have done this. And sometimes people go through that rabbit hole. It's so easy to do that. But maybe you didn't, and maybe that's why, because you're like, okay, my speech was only 7 minutes, and it should have been 20. But the reason why it wasn't 20 is because I didn't have enough content. I wasn't prepped enough. Okay, cool. So now I'm motivated. I'm inspired to make that content 13 more minutes of content for the next go round, and you got excited.
Yeah. So the speaking thing, and you know, you made a great point about like finding the thing you're better than most at, finding the thing that you care about the most. In the last probably 4 months, has been when I made the shift to go all in on speaking. Now, where I have thought about, God, you're freaking dumb, God, you suck, is running a business.
We all suck at that.
I had never been in business. I had never I didn't know about taxes. I didn't know about paying myself. I didn't know about any of that. And that's the thing that I was like, okay, what can I do to hire that out, to outsource it? What can I learn? Who can I get connected with? To where now it's like, okay, I have the tools in place. But the thing about speaking, man, I love that. And I think it came from, that was the thing I got in trouble most as a kid, is I talked too much in class, I cut up with my friends, and now it's the thing I get paid to do. It's amazing.
That's awesome.
That's funny how that works out too, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was
like,
just thinking that.
Like sometimes your so-called vices growing up become your virtues.
Right.
There's another analogy for it, right? There's another way to say that.
Yeah, but that was good.
You get what I'm
Vices
saying.
to virtues. Come on.
But you figure out what those vices are, and then if you can turn them into something better.
Yeah, my mom kept my kindergarten like composition book, like my conduct progression each week, and I made like all S's and A's or whatever. But the thing I got counted against so many times is talking in class. My conduct was terrible, but it was because I just wanted to talk to people. And now it's the thing that has turned into the vehicle that I get to impact people with now.
That's awesome.
I love that. It's same for me. I mean, not necessarily the speaking part. I mean, you definitely speak way more than I do. But for me in school, I graduated high school with like a 1.87 GPA. I wasn't very smart, couldn't read until the 10th grade. But I talked a lot, and all I did was negotiate. I remember being a small kid negotiating with my dad on how many whippings I was going to get. Like, you're going to beat me. Let me negotiate how many times you're going to beat me.
Can you relate to that, Chance?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No doubt.
And it's just
Can I be grounded instead?
yeah. So the crazy thing, my parents always laughed. They're like, we knew you were going to be in some type of cells or you do something because all you did is negotiate. Like, we were going to beat the life out of you, and you negotiated us like hitting you one time.
Hey, listen, can I have the ice cream if I put away 2 dishes? Can I have 2 scoops if I put away 5 dishes? My boy does that.
Listen,
My
that's
son
Piper.
does that.
That's my daughter. At 3 years old, that girl, Yeah.
I'm like, you better be a lawyer.
Okay, so you guys are better dads than me, because I just go in there and be like, hey, babe, you want some ice cream? No, you don't have to do anything. Dad's going to take care of you. I'm the man.
That's the what I'm going to be.
Like for me, when I have my first little girl, all I can think is like, how can I provide everything for both of my daughters so some stinky ass dude can't surprise them and take them to Florida for the weekend and impress them? I'm gonna be like, yo, my dad takes me to Dubai. Like, what are we gonna do?
That's goals right there for me too, man. I got 3 girls. So that's 100% it. Is how do I make sure that you're just not wooed by some
Scrub.
Dude,
Yeah.
some scrub
You gotta try.
he can't take her to Olive Garden and her be like, that's a good man.
I'm so excited to learn this and experience this because you guys are girl dads, and when and if I am a girl dad, it's going to be fun to learn how to raise a little girl opposed to raising a little boy. It's going to be fun because I'm understanding a little bit more of your dynamics from knowing you and some of the conversations that we had. And like, you don't have boys. I've got 2 boys.
No.
And like last night,
Thank God.
Last night they're like, Dad, you told us we would wrestle. Like, yep. So we wrestled for like 20 minutes, and I just like threw pillows at them. They like try to beat me up and stuff like that. Like a little girl,
Dude, I just
typically
take a
won't
nap
do
and
that.
wake
They're gonna
up
be
with
like,
my
Dad,
makeup done.
Yeah.
It's great.
Hey, listen, they will do what they see modeled.
Yes.
Like Piper and I, like we'll wrestle. She want like her favorite thing when
And
Oh,
you're a girl dad.
Yep. So
cool.
Piper's 3 and Bo, our son, is 18 months old.
So you're a girl
Yeah.
and a boy
Yeah.
dad. That's cool.
And I mean, Piper likes to tackle me. She'll hit me in the face with a pillow. But she also is starting to get into. She's 3, so she got like a vanity, little Barbie vanity for Christmas. And that girl will sit there and look and play makeup, and she's painting my nails, and like. But they also have that like tough thing if they see it modeled.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's so important that mom and dad have a relationship at some level. At the maximum level, how mom treats dad and how dad treats mom is going to be a model for the kids.
100%.
So that's what, when it comes to me and my 3 girls, I'm like, that is more or less what I'm like. I want to be the best husband I can be to my wife, because they're going to see how I love my wife. And I want them to expect that exact same feeling, that exact same, whatever it is that they see. Hopefully it's a good model. But my wife and I have had a very intimate talks about why our relationship works for us and so on and so forth. And it comes down to like, I was raised with a certain mindset of how a relationship should work. She was raised in the absence of that. So she wanted that. I wanted that too. And frankly, I wanted somebody to take care of me like my mom would take care of me, plain and simple. But I wanted to take care of someone the way my dad took care of my mom. So it was a beautiful dynamic, and I think that ultimately that's what it comes down to is like, hey, I want my girls to see that too. Now, at the same time, I joke and I say, hey, I don't want her to be wooed by some scrub. Man, I was a scrub when my wife met me.
Come on,
she's
talk
been
to
through our ups and downs together. I mean, 10 years we've been together too, and it's been a struggle. I've been nobody. I've failed 2-3 other businesses, and she always was right there, right next to me. And it's like, I tell her now, and I'm like, I don't deserve your love. But because of that, I'm going to keep pushing to be a better man. And one day, I feel like I deserve your love. And frankly, we're men. A lot of how we feel comes to how you provide and how you protect your spouse and your loved ones. And the reality is like, hey, what we're trying to do is build something that we're proud of, to say, hey, we take care of our people, whether it's, boys, girls, mom, dad, whoever. We all have those dreams. I think you said, you got a dream of buying your dad a truck. Like, that'll make you feel like more of a man to say, hey, I take care of my dad because he took care of me. Yeah. And here's my tiny little thank you for everything you did for me.
I want to buy my dad a truck, and I want my mom to have a craft room. She's like in her 60s, and she loves to scrapbook and like little creative stuff like that. So like,
that's the anchor.
That's right,
man,
and that's what it is.
I will feel accomplished if I can do those 2 things.
And you'll definitely make that happen. I mean, all the conversation we had, I know the passion you have.
I've got to move quick.
Keep moving. You just have to keep moving.
Less than 20 years. I mean, the average person lives how long? And they're in their 60s. I mean,
a lot of things can change in 18 months for sure. So to go back to the scrub thing. So you met your wife and you had nothing.
Right.
I'd lost everything. Right. You guys heard my $100 story. Yep.
Mm-hmm. And if you haven't heard the $100 story, trust me,
come on.
It is on the Blue Studio YouTube channel. It is on Mason Thatcher's Instagram. And it is on the Blue Studio Instagram. If you haven't heard the story, go look at Mason Thatcher and go listen to that story. Super inspirational.
Goosebumps.
Goosebumps.
So we weren't married. We were just together at the time, and I had lost everything anyway. But there's one thing I had in me, and the one thing that you had in you, and Kyle talks about, and it's heart, right? We had that passion. I was failing. I just lost everything in my whole life. And so she was all I had. And she had to see whatever was inside of me, you know, to stay. And then now I'm sure she's reaping some of the benefit of some of the success that we've had. So like a little scrubby dude is a little, you know, what a scrubby dude is.
You can feel that heart. You can feel that heart in the right person.
And you'll
You
be
can
able to
see
see
it.
the characteristics
Right.
of a little savage. Like,
Right.
You know what I'm going to do
Because
when he shows up at the front door to pick up my daughter?
boy, I'm not afraid to go back to jail.
Yeah, right?
You know, it's
What was that scene in Bad Boys? Was like, you ever made love to a man?
You're right.
You want to? You want to?
Yeah, it's like, you know, for me, I
100%.
think about I want to parent and model in a way to where I trust my daughter enough to know, oh, like we've already had conversations about the qualities she should look for.
Yeah.
To where I'm like, man, if baby girl brings home a boy, I already know. Like, I need to shake his hand and go, well done, you made it through the first test. Like, that's what I'm hoping for is that there's a standard and there's a level.
You've done a good job of parenting at that point, right? You want to have that feeling. Yeah, absolutely.
Right,
Yeah.
to where there's just a standard.
Yeah.
And, hey, I know I'm looking for this, this, and this. And, yeah, there's going to be, because I knew I had to evolve. I had to grow. But we know the characteristics that are important.
And I think it's funny because you bring up the difference, and maybe Mason's experienced this too, but Kyle can't. You know, I think the difference between raising a girl versus raising a boy is raising a boy. Let's be honest, we're all trying to figure out what it means to be a man in our own lives, right? But at the same time, you got to try to teach a boy what it means to be a man.
Yep.
Whereas with a girl, man, you just figure out how to be a really good man and treat your mom right.
Right.
And from there, hopefully you did enough.
Right.
You know, we'll see. But I think either way, the kids is great. And I think that kind of ties into, I think you said it at Tuesday, but it's one of your kids, right? Your business is a kid. You care about it. There's the same issues. There's always something coming up that your business is learning, evolving, whatever. And it's interesting because we talk about our kids this way. And it's funny because if you have the right conversations with business owners and the right people on their own, man, they start to talk about their business like their kids, right? There's times where you go through challenges where, imagine a teenager stage where you're just tired of it. You want to throw in the towel, like Braden said, And then there's other times where it's just like, yeah, you see my kid out there? Yeah, it's killing it, right? But and it's a beautiful thing to have that cycle. But I think it's the same thing you guys said, the roller coaster, right? If you don't have those great times, if you don't have those bad times, it just kind of gets boring. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing about kids. It's never boring. They're always, oh, okay, this is good. And all of a sudden, boom, they switch on what they're learning, how they're acting, whatever. And it's like your business almost does the same thing. Right. Depending on what you put into it and depending on how much care and love you put into it, you'll get different things out of it. I think, what was it now, 3 months ago, we left B&I?
Yeah, about
roughly
that.
or so. But there was a time where I was doing a lot more networking, a lot more focus on the selling part of the business, and this guy decided to come back into my life and kind of started talking out, and he got me to drop out of a networking event to focus on myself and my business. Yeah. And if I look at my business now, I am in love with my business. I mean, I haven't been this happy about my business in so long, and it is because I took the time to take a step back, focus back on my business, and again, putting that time into it, just like your kids, right? You put that time into your kids, and it comes back tenfold.
Yeah, networking can become not working real quick.
Yeah.
Do you guys-
So I have a question for Kyle real quick.
Yeah,
so
go.
we're talking about kids, and the reason why I want to bring this up because Kyle's a coach. Like he coaches people to extreme extent, taking people that I've seen that I didn't think had anything in them to someone who's absolutely amazing. Like, is that like having kids? Like I just do. I mean, I know that what you do and the work that you do, it's like magical to me. Like I love watching you transform people into someone who I never thought they could be. Like, give me the difference. Is that like raising a kid? What is that like, man?
I mean, you definitely have the same level of proud. Like when someone hires me, I go, "Congratulations, you just hired a CRO." chief reminding officer.
Oh yeah, I remember you mentioned that.
And that's what I like when you are constantly just going, okay, hey, here's what we're doing, here's where we're going, here's the next step, here's what's up. It is. You feel a sense of like, man, you put into work, and I'm just glad I got to watch, and I'm glad I got to guide, and I'm glad I got to give some nuggets along the way. But at the end of the day, I don't take credit for any of the transformation of the people because I'm not doing the work. They are. I'm just honored to be a part of the journey. And it's the same way with having kids.
Man, that's super strong.
That's good. That I love the way that you look at it, and I'm sure that the amount of detail you go in to showing these people how to unleash the champ in their life is just so strong to me. I love your story. I love watching what you do, man. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, it's and it's trial and error. I mean, much like I have a pretty consistent framework for the clientele, but some need more touch points, others don't need as much, and that's why there's multiple ways that people get into the ecosystem depending on what they need most.
Strong.
I want to pick your brain on the ecosystem thing.
Yeah.
But do you have any tips, tricks, ideas, comments, haikus, whatever, about how I can fall in love with what I'm doing? Like I know where I'm going. I think this is, let's say, this common person, right? Most people that are listening, they're kind of like, I think I know where I want to go. How do I fall in love with what I'm doing? And I'm in a down spot right now, right? I'm in a trench. I'm in a hole. I need to get out of here. I really like what I'm doing, but I'm not in love with it. You know what I mean? Like, there's some of these conversations that I've heard people say this kind of stuff. You can kind of fill in my blanks here.
Yeah. So the first question I would ask is, have you ever loved something before? Because oftentimes, especially in business, if someone says, man, I just don't love what I do. Okay, well, tell me about when you have loved something. They're typically going to go to a personal relationship. They're going to go to maybe a sport. They're going to go to a team. And they're going to share memories. They're going to share moments. And so then the question would then go, so tell me about memories and moments of your business. I think one of the biggest things that people miss on is documenting their progress. So every week when we have a one-on-one client, we do what we call film study. So film study is a weekly review where you talk about where'd you move the chains, where'd you take a sack, how'd you manage the clock, and how'd you handle your rivals. 4 questions, simple weekly progress. What that does is allows for you to have a clear path of where you're moving forward. So when you're going, I just don't love the business. All right, go back 6 months and read your film study.
Oh, that's cool. I remember, like, I've got books of notes and things that I did several years back when I first got started. And last year I looked through some of those. Yep. And it kind of reminded me of, like, wow, man, you had some fire.
Right.
You really loved certain elements, right? And it almost kind of made me think about, like, you don't have to love doing sales part of your business. You don't have to love doing the admin part of your business. Okay, well, that's where you can facilitate some of that, right? Hire somebody, outsource it, whatever it is, and do the part of the business that you love doing. If it is like, well, I'm a really good problem solver. I like to come in, I like to figure out where your gaps are, plug and play it, and then have the rest of the team implement it.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, one of the things that I had to learn in the course of probably the first 12 months is the systems I was in, the organizations I was in, made me feel I was way more organized than I am naturally, by preference.
You sound like you can relate to that.
Oh, man, I'm reading a book right now that talks exactly about that. But go ahead.
And so I had to learn, okay, how do I manage my time when for 10 years I would have said, I'm an incredibly organized person. I am type A. I get things done. And then left to my own devices when I didn't have anybody that I reported to, I'm like, I'm a terrible boss to myself. And that's where, like I mentioned Tuesday, that we judge others on their actions, yet we judge ourselves on our intentions. Mm-hmm. I know.
Dang, you look like you're vibing right now.
Dude, that's so good. I'm like, I'm over here like fangirl. That's what I'm doing. I'm like, my man is killing it. It is so good.
And I had my coach ask me if you were on your team and you were performing and you were the leader when you led a team of people, how would that conversation go? And I'm like,
man, okay, so I try to do that, and it's almost like proofreading your own work. And if you were to read that, you would be like, okay, yeah, I fixed everything. It all looks great. The grammar is great. And then if I send this to Mason, and Mason looks at it, he's like, dude, you misspelled realtors 5 times. I'm like, what? How? I read it. I proofed it. I proofed it 5 times. I'm good. There's no way. Like, how? And you look through and you're like, damn, I did that 5 times. Okay, what else did I miss?
So I have
It's hard to do that from your own perspective, bottom line, right?
well, and what's amazing is the example I gave and you gave included an outside perspective.
Okay, so
And that's what I do as a coach and a consultant is I provide
yeah.
the outside perspective because we're never going to call our own baby ugly.
And you think different.
That's
Your
the
brain is
honest
different
truth.
than mine. Like mine may be very tactile. Like you may be a very good big picture visionary thinker, right? And you may look at me and you go, "Hey, Braden, this is your 5-year deal, man. Like if you stay on this track, this is probably where you're headed because I've seen others or whatever it is, right?" And then I'm gonna go, okay, well, I want to change that. You're going to go, okay, well, then this is probably some of the things you're going to need to change. I'm like, okay. Then I go into the minutes or whatever it is. Like, instead of talking about days, I'm like, okay, well, maybe if I change this throughout my day, I can adjust my course of where I headed over the next 5 years. Yeah. So different people have different brains too, which is another thing I want to point out. Yeah. Right? Everyone thinks different.
So that's why I have 2 questions for you. And before I say those questions, you sent me something today or yesterday, a 1-pager, right, that captures some data. I was like, it looks good, but maybe too much text on there because it wasn't exciting in the beginning. That's just the way my brain works, like for me to capture. So 2 things are, 1, are you saying you may not be in love with your business right now? And 2, the most important, who's your outside mentor? Who's the person that's 10 steps ahead of you that cares about you, cares about what you do, and cares about your business? And if you don't have one, you're definitely going to miss it.
So let me tell you, I don't have one because I don't trust people. Because it's hard for me to put people on a pedestal because I realize that they shouldn't be on that pedestal because they're not where I want to go.
So
So that's question 1. That's question 2. Question 1 was what again?
Do you not?
Are you falling out of love with your business?
I fell out of love, but I'm falling back into love.
So
which is why I came up with this topic.
So you need to. So the whole mentor thing is huge, and the reason why the mentor thing is huge, we were talking about it earlier. I said when Kyle had his speech on Tuesday, and he went over the 5 things. A lot of people look in that room and they look at me and be like, Mason's not standing up. Mason's not going to stand up. Mason has it all figured out. Guess what? I stood up on one of the things, right? And I told him the other reason why the other half didn't want to is because they have something going on, this perception that they want people to think that they're better than what they are or as good as who they are. But what happens is I may not know everything about real estate. That's what I was saying earlier. I may not know everything about real estate, but you may not know what I don't know. And just because you don't know what I don't know doesn't mean that I'm still not successful in what I'm doing. But having a mentor who knows more than you is the most important thing because you don't know what you don't know until you know exactly what I know. And if you don't know what I know, then you don't have the same problems I have. You have the little problems. The little problems are the easy fixes. Now, you guys are talking about running a business. Running a business to me is the easiest part, right? Doing the content and the social media and getting myself out there and being like, hey, I make X amount of money and I'm this and, doing all that's the hard part for me. The easy part is running a business. Like if all 4 of you sent me what you do in a day-to-day business, I'll be, okay, here's what you should do for your taxes. Here's what you should do for your payroll. Because that's just the way my brain works.
Right.
But you guys look a hell of a lot better than me on the internet.
So,
Sure.
there's somebody that I met with back in like August, September, and I got to meet with him for an hour, and I brought him chicken strips for lunch. This guy has 7 companies doing $40 million a year, and he's like, "Man, you're fucking off somewhere." I don't know where you're fucking off because I'm not watching. I don't work with you. But you're fucking off somewhere, and I don't know where it is. And I'm like, no, there's no way. There's nowhere. I don't know. I'm not doing that. Like, I'm making calls. I'm trying to manage people, manage vendors. I'm like paying bills. I'm like doing all this stuff. I'm trying to network, and I'm, trying to come up with incentives and doing all this like managing the business stuff, right? And then now I'm wondering over the last 90 days, if I have been over the last year, I'm like, is that because I fell out of love with the business and I wasn't enjoying what I'm doing and people weren't seeing the passion? Maybe I wasn't connecting the dots correctly. There was some sort of gap there to where I really was just not getting something right.
You're focused on activity and not accomplishment. I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this, but I'm doing this. This is activity. This is busy work. And this is what I talk about all the time. Like people grind 15 hours a day.
Okay, so when people when we say like, oh yeah, we're grinding, right? Like that's a big like millennial thing. Oh yeah, get to the grind, man. Like wake up early and grind. And it's like, I kind of have like a 50-50 issue with that because it's almost like just fake. It's like, okay, well, what are you grinding for? How are you grinding? What does that grind actually look like that's actually getting towards your 5-10 year vision, goal, mission, your anchor, right? Those kind of things.
Yeah. I think it's important to create harmony with the hustle. So it should be hustle and harmony. Because getting to a place where you're like, I'm hustling. Okay, fine, whatever. Like, clap it up for yourself. I don't care. Because 9.5 out of 10 people that are only focused on hustle have shitty marriages.
Yes.
And their kids, like I had a mentor that said, because I was struggling with, especially once Bo came. Piper, it was pandemic. We spent a ton of time together. And then I started the business. Bo came around and it's this like triangle of chaos as business owner, husband, and father. You don't think you're doing any of them well. And I had a mentor. He goes, children need more time from mothers. Children need more presence from fathers.
Oh, I like that.
And he said, here's how you know if you're continually getting presence with kids 5 and under. He's got kids from 16 to 5. He said, if your young kids don't run to you when you get home, when they see you, there's a presence issue.
Damn.
If they look up and they see
I
you.
I know that there's those of us who have kids in the room. No offense to Chance, but you're going to have one soon. Sooner or later, it's going to happen. Yeah.
Later. Yes.
But
Oh,
man,
dude,
that hits home though, right?
I get that.
Because there's some days where like they run home, like I get home and man, they run in, like I usually like take my bag and put it in my bedroom and all this other, kind of settle in, and then they run in the bedroom and be like, Dad, let's wrestle.
Yeah.
But then there's some days, there's been some weeks where I can remember where they don't do that consistently, and I'm like, I now I can realize, I'm starting to realize where I can correlate that presence missing with that action of them doing that. But that's so cool.
And one of the things I study psychology, child psychology, and kids need about 9 minutes of uninterrupted presence from a father a day.
Did you say 9 minutes?
9 minutes.
So
That's it?
my son just the other day told me that he wishes he wants to spend more time with me, and he communicated that, which I thought was so cool.
Yeah.
That he said that. I was like,
he's probably been feeling that for months.
Yep.
and what does that look like to him? I've got to figure that out.
And
Like, how can I fill that gap? Right.
right. And it initially, how old is your son?
Almost 9.
Yeah. So he probably just wants to do what you do. You're his hero right now. You've not entered into the time where he thinks you're the stupidest person on planet Earth yet. It's coming for all of us. We all thought our parents were dumb.
14.
15.
Teenage years, bro.
But
I'm sorry, Mom and Dad.
But right now, he just wants to be you.
Yep.
So I've tried to take my boys to I took them to a RIA event in November to see what Dad does outside of the office, sitting at the desk, and I had them mic up just like what I did with you,
Yeah.
right? And I had them go up to people and interview them.
How did
And
they
Had
like
a
it?
blast.
They loved it.
Right.
They thought it was so cool, and then they got bored afterwards.
Right.
Yeah.
And but they'll remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when there's moments of going, okay, like that's my internal litmus test daily. And like my daughter may be playing and I'm in the living room. I come through the garage. There's a little small hallway into our living room. And I will kneel down and just wait until they see me. Sometimes I'm on my knees 2-3 minutes, and they'll see me, and as long they run, hug, jump, like it's the best part of my day.
Oh yeah. With that, my kids, I screwed up not too long ago, but they come out onto the porch every day that I leave for lunch. I try to go home for lunch every day. And whenever I leave, they'll come out on the porch and it will scream, "I love you," and "Bye, Dad," until they can't see me anymore.
Oh,
and I roll down my windows
man.
and do the same thing. I don't even care. Right. I'm like, that is the best part of my day.
Right.
It sucks that I'm saying goodbye, but that feeling of having those kids just yell after me, I'm like, that's why I do this.
So give me the next 2 to 3 minutes about balance, because balance is so important. And this is a conversation that, one, I've recently had with my therapist, and two, is some conversations we've had in the podcast as well. People have a hard time with balance. So, we're talking about falling in love with the business and falling in love with your kids and your spouse and all this stuff. And Kyle, dude, how do you balance all of this stuff? Sometimes it feels like stuff. You're just like, oh, just to add it onto the list to balance.
I don't or will never balance.
Thank you.
Pendulum.
Yes.
Elaborate. Let's go.
So, if there were 2 words that I could eliminate from human history language, it would be busy and balance.
Because everyone goes, oh, I'm so busy.
We use busy as a badge of honor and balance as an excuse of us not working hard.
So with the busy thing, I was telling my brother earlier, you're just saying you're busy, but you're just bad at prioritizing and management.
Well,
Time
it's
management.
a barrier to connection. If I ask you, "Hey, how's things going? How you?" "Oh my God, I'm so busy." I'm a decent human being. I'm not going to add anything else to your plate. I'm not going to ask you anything. I'm not going to ask how you're doing. I'm not going to invite you into anything I'm doing
it's
because
so
you're
true.
so
Yeah.
busy.
Yeah, which you're gonna lose opportunities with great connections, great people, or whatever it is, right? Because you're so busy. Yeah.
It's like so here's the language shift. I'm a Nazi about language. I keep a full schedule. What do you need? I keep a full schedule. How can I help? Busy is like frantic.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping a full schedule, who's in control?
Organized.
Yes, I keep a full schedule.
So that goes back to when I was like, here's my schedule. Put in your email.
Yeah, exactly. And then the balance thing. So balance is bullshit. And this is a soapbox of mine. Have you ever seen like one of those old school scales, right? That you put the weights in either side,
Yeah.
and you get it completely balanced. What is it not doing?
Moving.
Moving. So to say you want balance is to subconsciously say you don't want movement. Instead, where balance is bullshit, presence is power. Y'all are the absolute most important things to me right now. Why? Because you're in front of me. And when I leave here, if I make a phone call, that person will be the most important thing. When I get home, my family will be the most important thing. When I sit down with my wife after we put down our kids to bed and have bath time and books and all like that, she will be the most important thing. Be where you're at.
Be present when you're there.
Presence. Be present.
Are you guys present?
Yes.
Or do you have a hard time being present? And when you say yes, you have to say that and be confident that you are consistently present for where you are.
Yes, very consistent. So
Good.
the one thing that I pride myself on is being present in my daughter's life and in my wife's life. I did not have good parents. I didn't have the fun times, the good life as a child. So I provide that for my daughters. And the one thing that I do is what Kyle's saying is completely spot on. Like having that, like balance is bullshit. Balance is just saying that like you're going to prioritize something over something else and you have to shift. And no, it's doing the right things all the time, right? And so for me, like being intentional with my daughters, I do one thing each week. And if you have daughters, I think you should do it. I take them on a date. I literally I have a almost 5-year-old and almost 3-year-old. I take them both on a date alone each week.
I love that because I try to do that with my boys once every other month. Like 2 to 3 hours. Let's go to McDonald's. Then let's go to a toy store. Let's
do it more.
I don't know. Yeah.
Do it more.
Twice a month?
Twice a month would be perfect. I do it once a week because it just works for me. And I spend time with them and I ask them about their day and ask them how they're feeling and I take them to eat and I do things special for them. And the reason why I do this is because I'm setting the framework on how they're going to be treated by somebody else and what they're going to allow to happen to them as they go into the world, right? And it allows me to have that one-on-one connection. I spend time with them each day. And when I'm at home in front of my daughters, my phone is off. I don't care if you're calling me about the next deal. There's no dollar amount that takes away from my time with my daughters. That is the most important thing on my schedule. Now, everybody else, like Kyle said, you're in front of me, you're going to get my attention. We're going to do that if we're doing a one-on-one. If we have like time together, we're definitely focused in on it. But that's the most important time for me. That's my quote-unquote balance. But again, I'm like how him and I both agree. I think balance is stupid. I just learned and from Kyle, like I said, Kyle's an amazing like coach and awesome dude. Like we sat there and we had a conversation a handful of months back. He came and spoke at this men's ministry thing. And like we talked about like the word busy. I think I said the word busy and I'm not 100% he said shut up, but I'm like 98, 97% he was like, shut up, stop saying that. You're not busy. You keep a full schedule.
I love the reminder of that though too.
Yeah.
Because I've been every time that in the past I've said that I'm busy. That's exactly what it feels like.
You don't want to do what they're going to ask you. That's the only reason why you said it.
And well,
so you might as well just say, you know what, damn it, whatever you're going to ask me, I'm not going to fulfill that for you.
Yeah. Right. Don't ask.
Don't ask.
That's exactly what you're saying.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
Not
you're
your guy.
saying you don't have
You know,
availability.
and it's creating that, and I love. I mean, so you have 3 date nights a week,
Oh, because with my wife, yeah.
right? And you're modeling that, and that's what's awesome. Like, shout out to you. I mean, we'll pull the veil back. Like right now, the season that we're in, like Ginger and I are like, yo, we're trying to get a date night on the couch. Like we're trying to get,
Amen, brother.
like once a month right now is awesome for us. And so I think
You want to cuddle?
I want. She's like, no, I know what cuddling leads to.
Yeah, another kid.
But I think what's important is we can look at Mason as like he's put in systems to make this be a reality. Start where you can and work towards.
So I'm trying to build a system. So when I said like, so last year it's progress, right? Last year my goal was once every other month. Once every other month no, it wasn't. It was once a month. Once a month have a date with my spouse. Once a month have a date with each one of my boys individually, one-on-one. Once a month have a few hours for a family activity. Go to the park, watch a movie, do a puzzle. Don't care what it was. And then try to create some routines, habitual routines that like make an impact. I know my boys are going to remember growing up that, yeah, my dad wrestled and that was so cool. You know, oh yeah, my dad, he'd take us to lunch once a semester. He'd like just go randomly just call us out of class and just take us to lunch. Once a semester at minimum. That's what I want to do with my boys. I just want to go call the school, be like, hey, you know, get them out of class. We're going to lunch. You know what I mean?
Let me touch on one thing that Kyle said. Like the one date a week with my wife, sometimes it's couch time.
Right.
That's us watching a show, having a bottle of wine, spending that time together. It's not always going out because we don't, like you, we have small children. We don't get the luxury of going out all the time.
Right.
But I make it where it's like I'm making dinner, I'm doing this, I wrote her a letter or a card, or I brought a flower. Like I do these little
intentional
things.
Time.
Because it's very intentional. I want her to know, like, you're the most important thing. And, you know, you do a little date night, you get a little cuddle time, you get a little naked time. So that's the whole plan. That's why we do it.
So we can continue on this for quite some time. There's two or three things I want to touch on before we end because we got a few minutes left. Do you guys have any tips on falling in love with my business again? And this is not me personally. I'm not asking this. I'm a listener. I'm a watcher. I'm a viewer. How do I fall in love again? I really like to. I thought I wanted to do it. I really wanted to, but man, I'm stuck. Is there any ideas that come to mind? I'm like, hey, how do I fall in love again?
Go back to the last time you loved your business. I played video games growing up.
Same.
And I think about, you know, those first-person shooter games, Call of Duty, Halo, Mario, whatever. You get to a certain checkpoint, and then you die, and you go back to that checkpoint. So go back to the last time you can remember, man, I'm really digging this. I'm really in love with my business. And then as to the best of your ability, go, what was I doing then? What am I doing now? Where's the gap? And then sometimes you have to acknowledge that the absence of the feeling of love doesn't mean you don't still love it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have this whole thing that, like, you know, when I'm a faith guy, I'm a Jesus guy. I was a pastor for 12 years. Like, there's times where I go, I don't feel God's presence. I don't feel the direction. I don't feel this. I want something to be told to me. And about 6 months ago, I wrote in my journal, the teacher can't speak during the test.
Man. 100%. Man.
And so it may be that you aren't in love with the business anymore. You need to make a shift. Or it could mean you just got to keep doing the same thing, because a consistent behavior in an intended direction over time yields results.
God, I love that too. Man, yeah. That's what a lot of people need to hear right now, I tell you.
There'll be some good clips out of this show.
Yeah.
And
Mason,
so if you
can follow up with this too.
Yeah. If you need to fall in love with your business again, go back to the last time you loved it.
Man, I love that, Kyle. So you're going to get the past, present, and future, right? Past is what Kyle's talking about. Go back to when you loved your business. The present is where you're at, where you don't love it. You've fallen in love. I like to look at the future. Where do I want to be? What's my vision look like? What would my business look like if I actually loved it again?
Come on.
And once I realize what I think at that moment, that vision, that time of what it's going to look like when I love it, what are the 5 to 10 things and 10 steps that I have to take to get it there? Who are the people that I have to get involved to get it there? That's why I brought up the whole mentor thing. Like, you need somebody in your life that's going to say, hey, I know business sucks right now. It's tough. It's horrible. Of course it is. We all go through it. You're losing money. You're losing time. You're stressed. You're freaking out. You know, you barely making bills, not making bills. Man, I've been there too. Here are the 5 things that I did in that moment that you're in, and that underdog, that sinking moment that you're in right now that I did that got me out of it. Because what's going to happen is there's going to be 3 to 5 things going to help you get out of it, but it's not going to put you where you want to be. There's still another 5 to 10 things that you have to do to get to the step that's actually going to be like, man, I've arrived. And once you've arrived, guess what's going to happen? You're going to fall out of love again, because it's going to be this process, because you're not going to be content and you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be happy till you reach the top, whatever the top may be. Well, guys like us sitting in this room, guys right now, we don't have a ceiling. And that's a good feeling to have.
That's what Leslie was telling me. She's like, you're never going to be content.
Congratulations. That's the best thing to have. Having contentment means to be failure. Having contentment means that you're going to quit when you get to a certain
some people that don't have our ambitions, our dreams, aspirations, our visions, don't understand.
It's not you to help them understand. I'm so sorry.
No,
Kyle's about to go in.
No.
Yeah,
He's over there ready to go.
There's some people that just cannot and will not and do not desire to understand, and that's okay. There are some people that you're not designed for it. You're not built for it. You're not destined for it. That is okay. There should be certain people in the world that are designed, built, structured, that have the grit to be able to do like what you're talking about. You know, Chance, what do you have? You have any thoughts?
So talking about the past, present, and future. So I'm with you on that one, Kyle. To start with the past, check yourself the last time you were in love with your business.
Come on.
When you're at the present, that's when discipline and consistency can get you to the future. And when the future comes, you need to have that mindset when in the presence in order to think about, hey, man, if I do this, if I just keep doing it, if I stay disciplined, that will be my future. You know, like I want to be, you know, I don't want to say it, but I'll say it. Fuck it. I want to be a billionaire before I'm 40 because I want to retire my mom. I want to show that I showed up. I'm the one who made the money for me, and I want to be able to give back as much as I can. So if I'm at a position to where I can donate $100 million to St. Jude, there's no way that I can't live to where the life that I've envisioned for my future. But that just comes back to discipline and consistency to get you through the present to your future.
Abel, do you have any thoughts?
I do, man. And unfortunately, this is going to be kind of a story.
Unfortunately, what? Your stories are
Stories
great.
are great, bro.
Kind of a story. you said the big point, falling in love with your business again. And throughout the conversation, I picked up, obviously, we're girl dads for the most part. There's a sense of our manliness that kicks in that says, hey, your mother, I agreed to take care of forever. You, I made, and I am in charge of taking care of you forever until, hopefully, I set you up with a better man, right? Things that he can take care of you and take that role from me, right? But I think it goes back to, like, I always think about, like, what my wife saw in me, right? And there was a time when I was into cars heavily, and there was this car that I built that I said, and I tell everybody, that's the car that showed me that I could. I didn't get to the goal I wanted for this car, but I started moving. So we talked about the imperfect movement, right? I started making movement. Originally, I was like, hey, this car's going to make 1,300 horsepower. Then reality kicked in, and I was like, whoo, that's fucking expensive. What can we do, right? So we got to the point where I decided that dream was no longer important. Because at that point, my wife was pregnant. I was feeling like something needed to come from life, something more, right? I'm looking at the future at this point, but I'm not really sure what's going on. I'd fallen out of love with life at that point. And I was like, okay, well, something has to change. Something has to change. So I sold the car. And that was that. I was like, I don't know what's going to happen, but God is going to come in here somehow and set me up for success. I just got to create the opportunity and just wait for the opportunity to come to me, right? So I recently fell out of love with my business as well because, frankly, it's normal, man. We're human. We all have those same emotions, right? Where things are good. When things are bad, man, as a business owner, things are bad, right? Especially when you got more people relying on you, right? You're the dad that's supposed to provide for all your kids. And when you can't do that, man, you just feel terrible.
Right.
So
And your employees are your kids.
My employees are my kids, man. 100%. I met somebody earlier. I told you when I got here, I was meeting one of my employees. We haven't worked for 3 weeks, and he asked me for some money. And frankly, I didn't have it, but I found the money to give to him. I know he's got bills to pay. I know he's got shit going on, and so do I. And frankly, today I had to come up with $3,000 to pay payroll for next week.
But you put yourself in that role. You took the oath, the responsibility of the leadership, the CEO, the president, the one who said, "Hey, I am daddy. I'm the one that's going to take care of my children."
That's it.
Yeah.
So anyways, going back to, there was a point where I fell out of love with my business. And this kind of rounds back to, like, hey, our daughters, right? I realized a while ago that this business is much like this car was to me, right? I didn't know what I was going to do with this car. I had this vision. I had this dream of what it was going to become. But at some point, my life changed. And at some point, I made a redirection. And in the business, I know what the long-term plan is. I have this is a car. I'm just building it, man. I'm just putting the pieces together. It's just a matter of time before I go kick everybody's ass. But I come to the realization that what happened to that car, and I think this goes partially to the falling out of love, was, what happened to that car was, it was a materialistic thing that realistically, to most of us, whenever we accomplish some emotional goal, there's usually some materialistic aspect tied to it. I bought that house. I bought that car. I'm building this business. I have XYZ employees. Whatever. There's some sort of materialistic aspect tied to this emotional achievement. Well, when I built that car and it ran and it made me super happy, I drove the crap out of it 3 times and then I sold it. Why? Because the dream's over. I did it. It's gone. There's nothing else. This is happy. My wife doesn't even want to ride in this thing anymore because it scares her. Well, what good is that? I can't even take my wife out in this car.
Story sounds familiar.
It was great. But I realized at that time that it wasn't necessarily the car I was after. It was this vision. It was this dream. And when I realized that I was no longer willing to put in that work anymore for that car, it was time to turn it to a different dream. So it brings it back to like that, those character traits that I had when my wife met me, that I was a scrub. I was nobody, right? We lost it. Didn't lose everything. I made those conscious decisions to downgrade my life and whatnot. But we went backwards. And in the business, I started to realize that it was the same process. I had this beautiful vision, and here I am, a blew up the motor, and, you know, in the process of fixing it up. And it sucks, man. It just sucks. I have no money to get this thing keep going. I have so on and so forth. And that's the way I feel in the business. Hey, it just sucks right now. But then there's the day you turn the key, right? And the car actually starts. You're like, whoa, I did it. So right now, what happened in my business in the past 6 months or so, I fell out of love with my business. I started refocusing my energy, just like I did in the car. I decided, hey, I'm actually going to finish it now. And what I did to help for the future, a lot of tying all of it together, right? In the past, the presence, your father, you need that presence, right? So growing up, my dad was a truck driver. I was taught what it was like to be a man because there was never anything missing from home to stay alive. There was shelter over our head. There was food on the table. As far as I knew, everything was hunky-dory, dude. Everything was great. But I always wanted my dad to be there. Now, my dad chose to be a truck driver. There was times, like Braden said, hey, you took the boys to Rio the other day. There was times I remember riding with my dad in that semi for a week, 2 weeks. I thought it was heaven on earth. Poor old man was just working, right? And I'm like, hell yeah, because I was present with my dad.
I did the same thing with my dad. I went and cleaned up job sites.
Right.
He was a master carpenter.
It's the same feeling, right? So
I'd be like, dude, hey, Dad, I'll go to work with you if I can just clean up some of the leftovers. Like, let me just be there. Like, this
Cleaned
is
up
so
a warehouse.
cool.
I did moving jobs. Yeah.
Didn't care.
Whatever, to hang out with dad. That's what it was, right? So I put myself in the position of like where I am presently. I have this dream of being there for my kids. I set myself this goal of financial freedom by 35 because right about that kid, my oldest one will be about 10 years old. She'll really start to remember some really great memories at that point, and I want to be there for every single one. So I think about my past and what I missed with my dad, what I wanted from my dad, and I'm thankful for everything he did for me. I mean, the man did awesome raising his kids. But I see myself and I'm like, okay, in the present tense, I fell out of love with my business, but why? In the future sense, what's going to make me love my business? If I have all that time in the world with my girls, that's going to make me love my business. So how do I get from running this business that I don't love right now to the point where I love it and I get to spend all that time with my girls? I get to achieve that. Build the right processes.
That's right.
Whatever those processes are, whether they're people, whether they're automated systems, whatever it is, you build your process and you stay consistent to it. The game works if you work the game. It's just setting up that proper system for your life, whether it's the date nights, whether it's the accountability at work, whatever that is. Build that process and then follow the process. It's not going to happen today. Turning one bolt is not going to get that car running. You got to put the whole thing together and then pray that one day it's going to start when you turn that key. And that's essentially what we're doing. We're building these businesses to give us this end goal that you can't have a tangible feeling on it. That's where we'll never hit that ceiling because our ceiling, that motorcycle, that house, whatever it is, there's going to be a next one. There's going to be a next one. But ultimately, you talked about your calling at the speech. There's a calling behind it all that will keep you going. I realized recently, it's like, hey, I'm here to lead people. I told Braden and Chance about 6 months ago, like, hey, I want to be the catcher in the rye. I don't know if you read that book. But, dude, I'm just here to nudge my people back to the direction I want to go. What are your dreams? What is your reality? What is your dream? And I want to help make that a reality. How do I make that happen? Sometimes it won't happen, and that's okay. But then when it does, it makes all that boring time when you're just grinding, making the BS stuff so fun and exciting at the fact that, like, dude, we finally get to do something fun. I told my brothers the other day that we work with a lot of Hispanic people. It's the industry, right? That I want to have a party whenever somebody goes back to Mexico to retire. I want to have a party when they get their papers and they're 100% officially legal citizen of the United States. I want to have a party when your family comes from, like, I want to celebrate your wins because ultimately these are opportunities that may have never happened to you. Because if I can make those opportunities happen for you, you will make the opportunity of me being there for my girls for every single event possible.
Give.
But first, you got to give to them. And eventually, hopefully, I'll be there for my kids. And if not, I'll be a lot closer than if I wouldn't have been chasing after this dream.
100%. Give me two more things from you guys. First of all, I need to know what the champ is. CHAMP.
Yeah. So the playbook to predictable success is when you align your calling, heart, altitude, mindset, performance. Calling, heart, altitude, mindset, performance.
What's altitude?
altitude is your vision. So the 5 questions that align those, very simple, easy to hear, hard to implement. Why are you here? That's your calling. Why does it matter? That's your heart. Where are you going? That's the altitude. What do you think? That's the mindset. And what do you do? That's your performance. And we use the word altitude not just because CHVMP doesn't work to spell champ, but altitude implies movement. Vision implies, like, I can sit right here and I have a vision of the corner of that space, but it doesn't imply I'm moving anywhere towards it. And so altitude implies movement. And so calling, heart, altitude, mindset, performance, you align those 5 areas of your life, it creates that anchor, and it creates the playbook to predictable success. So when you fall out of love with your business, with your personal, your relational, your emotional, your professional, you just go back to the playbook, and it anchors you back to what you're doing.
How do I get in touch with you?
UnleashTheChamp.com is the hub for everything. You can reach out to me, at Kyle J. Sullivan on Instagram. It's where I'm most active. Kyle Sullivan on Facebook. Kyle at KyleJSullivan.com. You can email me directly. I'm easy to find.
Cool.
I have one question real quick. I want to know where each of you guys stood up on Tuesday.
Oh, well, I was busy recording him on Tuesday. But
You were already standing? Did you not stand up?
No, I stood up.
Which one?
Performance.
Oh,
Yeah.
my man.
that's what I was
That's
thinking too, was performance.
In performance for me, and I'll just be completely transparent, it comes to, I know what my calling is. I know what my heart is. Like, I went down the whole list. Like, he's telling me, oh, it's not me. It's not me. That's not me. Performance in my active business doing real estate, killing it. But in what I think my calling is, I know that what my calling is may not just be real estate. There's something else in there. The me on the calling and me doing my current assignment.
Come on.
Is me doing real estate. My purpose is building people up because I enjoy doing that and watching other people grow. So I need to focus my performance on that to be able to do that.
That's why we have this podcast, Vulnerability.
That's right.
You're right on the money.
Love this. And then Chance, bro, my guy.
What's up?
We're in January. That Audi A7 and 5K cash, if I don't see that, if I don't win that, I'm going to freak out, which is okay because, we're friends, so I can't win it. It's cool.
You can win it.
I'll still support.
You
I
can win
can.
it.
Oh, I
Yeah.
can. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
you can win.
so maybe if I get in the draw, so I'm in the drawings. I know I have because I'm wearing one of your awesome shirts, hats. I bought stickers and I bought like air fresheners. Like, man, you got a wide variety of stuff. So you've got a few weeks left. Tell me real quick about what's going on.
So now until the 16th, we're doing 20 times entries. And then the 16th through the 31st, we're going to do 50 times entries on every dollar. So, and a portion of all sales go to St. Jude. So it's for a good cause because the overall mission of the company is to be St. Jude's largest donors in 2 years. So the way I can help give back is to give something that I've personally built, which is my Audi, and $5,000 to anybody willing to support me.
Dude, and that Audi, I haven't driven it. I know you have.
A lot. Yeah.
I haven't driven it, but I've sat in it, and man, it's like a warm hug. It's so cool.
Yeah, I love the car. I love the car.
It's a beautiful car. Well, you guys, we're getting close onto our hour time frame. I really appreciate you guys coming into the Blue Studio on Brews Business. It's a warm welcome to have you here. Appreciate you. And I look forward to seeing you guys again soon. I know Mason, man, we're going to see you again soon. Kyle, you're not a busy guy, but we'll have to put you on the schedule, huh?
That's right. I'd love to come back. This was awesome. Thank you, guys.
It's pretty cool. We'll have to come up with another topic. We're booked through March, it's probably sometime in April or May, but we'll come up with our own topic, man. Like some cool inspirational stuff, like talk about some real shit and move forward,
Hell, just what we did here today was inspirational,
man,
honestly.
it was
Fire.
cool.
I can't wait to see it.
And,
I can't wait to see
and
the
you know, one of
clips.
the cool things I love about the Brews Business podcast is how it's unstructured because sometimes you never know what people need to hear when it happens. And so there's a reason why we had the conversations that we did today, especially, a good portion of our podcast today was about family and kids and spouses and stuff. It wasn't about business, Somebody I know somewhere needed to hear that, right? And you can't control that stuff. Sometimes you got to let it go, let it ride, and what happens, happens, Ride the wave and enjoy the fun. So
I do want to say one thing real quick.
Yeah.
There's 2 books that came to my mind when we were in this podcast. Traction and then ready, fire, aim. You don't always have to know where you're going. Just start going. Those are the 2 books I want to throw in there.
Just don't do that with a real gun.
No, please don't. No, please don't.
You need
I'm glad you threw that in there.
Be a responsible gun owner.
ready, aim,
Please.
fire.
Please. Cool.
That's
That was
awesome. My name is Braden Cruz. I'm with Sooner Marketing Solutions, creating marketing solutions, delivering sooner results, streaming live at the Blue Studio.
Abel Rodriguez with ARC Outdoorsman, where we are creating and maintaining your outdoor living.
Chance Jones with Threaded Industries, where we are a brand built to give back. 20 times entries until the 16th, 50 times entries after that. So get your entries before it's too late.
Mason Thatcher, Flip Tulsa Real Estate, flip your life.
Kyle Sullivan with Unleash the Champ.
Woo!
That's a wrap.
Awesome. We'll see you guys next time.